Okay, my name's Judy Richards, and I was a member of CSEA for 27 years. I started off in the Department of Law in 1967, and then I went to SUNY Empire State College, and I was the vice president for 6 months. And then my president decided I was doing such a wonderful job that I should become the president. So she resigned, and I became president. I never had any opposition in all the elections. And I was president until 2 years ago when I retired.
Okay. Do you remember when you first became aware of an association called CSEA?
As soon as I walked in the front door of SUNY Empire State College, the Human Resources Department gave you a packet, and I had no idea how large CSEA was. I went to my first convention at the Concord in the Catskills, and I thought I was going to maybe like a Holiday Inn for a meeting, and I was shocked of the organization, the many facets of CSEA, and I thought, what a challenge this is going to be. And I just got very excited because I'm a people person, and I felt that they should have a fair share and a fair shake in the workplace. And I became involved, and my dad was a laborer and was in the union, and I guess maybe that was why I decided to become involved.
What year was that when you went to work at
67.
Empire State College?
Well, it's actually 68 because I started in 67 at the Department of Law, and I was only there less than a year.
Okay.
And
And
then-
so fairly early on you got active within
Yes.
the organization?
Yep, within the 6 months of me coming into the front door.
What was that first convention like?
Overwhelming, very overwhelming. I was like the new kid on the block, and I didn't really have a lot of exposure, so it was a very learning activity for me. I felt I did develop a network of people. People were very willing, reached out to you, were more than willing to answer any questions that you had about anything. They were just there for you. So you didn't mind giving your time to them because they were giving their time in return for help to the membership and to yourself as an activist.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What was the mix of people like at that event? Do you remember?
I don't know. I guess I can't remember. It was quite a long time ago. I felt that everybody was kind of on an equal level. I mean, the staff people were there putting on workshops, and they were like right at the same level that we were. Their interests were there for the membership like we were. I didn't feel intimidated at all. You talked to a lot of people. You learned a lot of things. And I just felt very comfortable. I was overwhelmed, but I was comfortable. And I didn't hesitate to pick up the phone and call anybody to say, well, what did you mean by this, or how do I do that? And they were just always there. And I just felt good about that.
Do you why did you join CSEA when you first came in the door? I mean, what was the incentive to you to actually become a part of this?
My dad said, you have to belong to a union to be protected. And I said, well, what do you mean? I had to take a test to get in here, and he said, that doesn't mean anything. The union will be there for you. And then I guess it was from my dad pushing me. And he always taught me, if you're right, you open up your mouth. And if you're not right, you sit back and you listen, and then you open up your mouth. And my mother always said, it's from your father where you got where you are, because you did listen, and you opened up your mouth, and you fought for your members and for yourself.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you remember in that time frame the first state contract?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I don't remember it at all.
Okay. What do you remember about contracts being negotiated? When does that start to?
Well, I remember my
mean
first
something to
salary
you?
was like $3,000, and I thought that was a lot of money back then, and I was real excited. And I felt it was probably the best that they could do. I really, like I said, I was a little bit naive, but I was willing to step up to the plate because you have to start somewhere. And I didn't really get involved in negotiations because working in the state government, there was only one contract. It was not like at local government levels where you negotiated, with the administration there. But I don't remember any of the particulars, except that my salary was $3,000.
Okay. Those must have been, times where there was kind of like a continual growth to
Mhm.
CSEA. What do you remember about, how you got more involved and how you saw the organization beginning to change, particularly in the early 70s?
Well, we started getting involved with political action. We started doing picket lines, informational lines, not picket lines. Um, and I just kept going to more and more conferences and workshops to become more knowledgeable in different aspects of what CSEA was all about. And I just tried to apply that information, and then I tried to get other members to become involved. And unfortunately, at my workplace, there was mostly women, and they were pretty skeptical of getting involved because they were always afraid, quote, they were going to lose their job if they stepped up to the plate. And I tried to convince them, and I think I was pretty successful because in the end, most of my officers and most of my activists were women. I had just maybe a handful of men that worked in our mailroom and our supply room. But Empire State at the time when I was working were mostly women.
How did you see CSEA change in terms of the way women were treated in the organization through that time frame?
In the organization or as an employee?
Well, I mean, I know that, for example, in the late 70s, Women's Committee was created, and there seemed to be more of, a recognition of
Right.
the need to address issues that women were bringing to the table.
Well, I think Region 4, the Capital Region, was the first region also that had a women's committee. We were kind of like the pilot program, and at that time, I actually was a regional officer, and we felt it wasn't just women's issues because there were many men that were also at home, and there were issues that not only were effective towards the women, but they were also affecting men. And we just felt that these were issues in a whole that needed to be addressed. But foremost, most of the heavyweight landed on the woman. But there were some issues like daycare and that type of thing that men were involved in also, especially when most women and men had to have a two-income family to survive.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What do you think of when you think back over the last 30 years or so? What do you think of as the significant events that affected CSEA as you saw them?
Oh dear. Well, contracts, obviously, healthcare,
Mm-hmm.
job security, daycare, safety in the workplaces, health benefits.
Well, we're talking about safety. Do you remember the fight to get the public employment safety and health law passed?
Yes, yes. And at Empire State College, I think we were one of the first SUNY campuses that brought some attack to the state because there were some violations. And we were successful in our little role that we were trying to bring across to them.
Mm-hmm. Was that an issue that it was easy to get the members involved in standing up for that issue?
Mostly the committees were the people that were behind most of the movement and the change. On the local levels, I found that people would come to a committee and talk with them, but then they wanted the committee to be the spokesperson for them because they didn't feel they had enough knowledge to express their interests themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So in my particular case, we had our committee mostly do the speaking for the membership.
Okay. Do you remember the fight over the PS&T unit leaving CSEA?
Yeah, I do.
What was that all about?
Well, they were officially, they wanted to come with us, and they were in more of a technical group of employees, like nurses, technicians, and stuff. And the marriage, as people would call it, when they came with us, for a long time was good. And then they felt, well, maybe we should have broken away from again and gone back, because they felt that they could have negotiated when they went under PEF better contracts and stuff. And I had mixed feelings about that because I felt, we were all under CSEA, and I felt maybe the classified service situation could have been looked at differently, the Department of Civil Service, to keep those people. And when they broke away, I think we lost a lot of strength when they left us.
And, I mean, obviously, that was a pretty significant blow to the organization.
Yes.
To lose as many people as we did all in one fell swoop. What was the reaction among the membership when that happened?
I think they were disgruntled a lot because, again, over the years with CSEA, with contracts in local government, before agency shop, we lost a lot of people. And then when we lost PS&T, there was more people gone. And we started seeing our numbers dwindle and our strength wasn't as powerful. And then we went into AskMe, and thankful for AskMe, they were there for us for support when we needed them.
Okay, what do you remember about that affiliation? Were you involved in the ratification of that?
Yes. At first there was some hesitancy and there was a lot of questions about it. And what were we going to get? I guess that's always somebody's question in their mind. What are we going to get if we give them so much money? And people were hesitant, but I thought after like the first couple of years, then they were more comfortable. And I think to this day, I think now people still have mixed feelings, but I think that AskMe has proven to be a good partner to CSEA. And I think people really need to get involved to understand the whole organization, because they just see money taken out of their paycheck and they don't have a clue why it's taken out. And I think there needs to be some more marketing or more communication somewhere, whether it's at the local levels or it's from CSEA, to make people become aware of what really is happening and what services really are out there. Because I don't think people really understand the whole organization. They just see their funnel of attention is just their immediate funnel, where they're working, their work location.
Were you part of that ratification meeting, the story when MacGowan brought the board? Were you on the board at that time?
No, I was never on the board of directors.
Okay.
Never
Okay.
was on that board.
I mean, do you remember, as you said, it took a couple of years for people to sort of get comfortable with the relationship with AskMe. What do you remember about how that proceeded? Did they come out and do meetings? Did they have
Yeah, they had
representatives,
informational meetings. They did them like in the capital region and in the other regions. I'm not sure if they did a satellite conference or not. I can't remember, because we did use satellite conferencing for different events like contract negotiation, ratification and stuff. But I don't quite remember if that was one of the particulars that we used.
Okay. What do you remember about Bill MacGowan?
His cigar. Bill was a feisty man. He fought like hell for the membership, and I think they respected him for it. I think he was a good leader. And I think basically that's what I remember about Bill MacGowan. You could go up and talk to him and feel very comfortable. And again, I think most of the leadership with CSEA, you can talk with them. And you just have to get over that barrier that you think it's them and us. It's all one. We're all one union. And I think people need to start feeling confident that, you know, they're here for our best interests, and you need to come forward and stop sitting in the back row of the theater and come forward and get involved. Because if you don't get involved, you don't have anybody to blame but yourself.
I should probably have taken a step back when I started that line of questioning. How about I assume you had some contact with Ted Wenzhou?
That was my very early days on. And
everybody laughs before they answer about Ted Wenzhou.
well, I remember the biggest thing I remember about Ted Wenzhou, like I said, it was my early days on with CSEA. We were having a meeting, and I know it was in Albany, but I can't tell you where. And he got very upset of a question that was asked him, and I don't remember the question, and I thought he was going to go over the top of the table at the person that was there. He was only there like a short period of time, and then Bill came in, thank the Lord. But I don't have a comment one way or the other about his leadership, because I wasn't really that involved with him at that point. But Bill MacGowan, Joe McDermott, Danny, and those were the presidents that I've dealt with over my 27 years.
Okay. Did you have dealings with Tom McDonough?
Not really. Again, like I said, sometimes I stepped back a little bit, but why, I can't tell you. But I didn't have any problems talking with Bill MacGowan. And then I started getting on statewide committees and stuff. And then I had worked under Joe when he was the regional president as his regional secretary. So I felt very comfortable speaking with him. And Mary Sullivan, I love. I could always go to Mary Sullivan for answers. And I guess you got to feel comfortable in your spot, in your role, as to who you can speak with.
Okay. Tell me about Irene Carr, too.
Irene Carr was my mentor. Irene taught me as the regional secretary, my first time I was elected, and I had been 15 years as a regional secretary, to never feel intimidated that you're not part of the meeting. You need to speak out and partake. Don't just be a secretary. Don't just take minutes. And actually, Irene and I did a little travel show together, and we went into the regions, and we did training together way back when, because I was in the capital region. And so we went into the locals in the Albany area and did training together, and she was a marvelous lady, and very laid back, and just took the bull by the horn in her calm little way. And when she wanted to say something, you knew what she was trying to say, but very, very professional, the way she did things.
What obviously it's difficult to generalize about CSEA, but I think that in the capital region in particular, because of the concentration of state employees here, that's sort of what is unique to the character of the organization here. I wonder if you would talk a little bit about the culture of state employees in and around the Capital District.
Well, I came from Saratoga, so I was kind of considered the North Country. The culture in Albany, I think, ethnically carried a lot of different diversity. And I think over the years, you started to see more and more people become involved, first on the local level and then in the regional elections. And people have moved on. I think they don't see a barrier like they used to see. And I think there's been a lot of unity within the different diversity in the capital. I think across the state, not just in the capital region. And I think people are reaching out more because they know we're all here for the same reason. And that makes me feel good, because I think people need to work together, no matter whether it's CSEA or a community organization or a labor temple or whatever it is. If you don't reach out, you can't do this job by yourself. And that's how I look at it.
It seems like they're, one time in the organization, maybe still true to an extent today, but the issues are a little different. But there was a stronger social component to what the union was, for why people got involved with the union. Did you see that especially in the early years?
I think under Teddy Wenzhou, that was the social part of it, because that's all I saw. I didn't see a lot of activity helping the state employee or the county employee. When Bill MacGowan got in and Joe McDermott got in and Danny, I think that whole picture changed. I think people realized that we mean business. We're not here just to have a drink and a dinner. And we have to work hard, and I mean work hard, to get what we need and what we deserve as state employees and public employees. And I think we have to say thank you to those three men that, weren't going to take any crap from the Capitol, and they worked hard for us, and we were behind them, and the numbers were there, and we all got out and worked for the same cause.
If I recall correctly, I think you ran for statewide office.
Yes, I did.
One time. What were the challenges of running on a statewide basis? I mean, obviously you had some standing here in the capital region as a region officer, but I would assume that it was kind of a unique challenge to run on a statewide basis.
It was a very difficult task. It's a money situation, I think. And actually, it was Irene's position that I ran. I felt it was time. And I was kind of overwhelmed, but I thought I had to start somewhere. And I really enjoyed being the secretary. And I wanted to get more involved statewide. And unfortunately, I lost. And then I ran a second time. And I only lost by 1%. So I just kept plugging. And I just thought, well, you know what? Maybe it's not my time. And I just think the unfortunate part for a little guy is you don't have the contacts, you don't have the ability to go out because, as you know, when you're elected for a statewide office, it's the whole entire CSEA in the 6 regions. And I just think they have an upper hand, that the incumbent has an upper hand. But if you believe in something, you just got to fight the fight as whatever tools you have and just go for it, and maybe you'll get lucky. I don't know, but I don't resent or regret the fact that I ran and I lost. I felt proud that I got as many votes that I did across the state. And if I had to do it again, I might do it again.
Can you think of something that you would describe as maybe the one of the best things that, like a story or something that was one of the best things that happened to you in CSEA? And then I'm going to ask you about the worst
Okay.
thing that happened.
I think the overall best thing with me with CSEA is the many friendships and the networks of people that I've met over the years that truly were there in personal times, in work times, and I'm just, like I said, I'm a very much people person, and I knew I made a lot of contacts with a lot of people, and my willingness and their willingness to give me any kind of advice or, challenges, and just kind of push me a little bit and say, well, you can do this, and come on board with us, and join the committee or do something. And they gave me a little bit of self-esteem when, believe it or not, sometimes I was not quite sure of myself, and I thought, what's the worst thing that can happen? Okay, so I'll volunteer. And I thank those people for all that advice and time, and staff people included, and I enjoyed my years in CSEA very much.
Okay. I don't want to be a downer, but what about what were some of the worst
Time.
you had?
I think the worst times where, I guess it's called politics, when you knew one side of a person and they were your friend, and then they were the friends of somebody else, and then you get into a debate of an issue or a candidate or an endorsement, and hard feelings are brought to the surface. And you just really, if you're not that kind of person, I think you have to put the friendships aside and got to look at the situation and say, well, this person or this situation, the ending result is the best for the membership. And you have to get to that point. And sometimes people can't. And I just think sometimes we have to put aside our differences and look at the overall picture and not take things so personally. And I think people have a tendency to take things personally. And it's unfortunate, because then you lose the momentum that they're going to stay involved, because they're thinking, well, Mary's mad at me because I voted this way, or Johnny's mad at me because I didn't endorse this person. And all the hard work that everybody put in the organization just gets blown out of the water, and the members lose. It's not just those 2 or 3 people or a group of people. The members are the ones that lose in the end.
It seems like there's always something new to learn about CSEA. What has surprised you over the years that you've learned about the organization?
I don't know if I had any surprises, because in the end I became very involved in statewide committees and stuff, and then I was a non-voting member on the board. I don't know if I can think of anything.
Okay. Why do you think CSEA has been able to endure for 100 years?
Commitment. The ability to have great leadership, not only elected, but people that are willing to give up their time and half their lives to continue to fight the fight with everything that they have. And the state of New York is going to be here, I think, for a long, long time. And being the capital where everything happens, I think CSEA is going to be around for a long, long time.